Alright guys, what is happening? Dema is Red here. It is time for the second video of my project Arena 1v1 tier list. Now we have 5 different civilizations in tier number 2, and together with the experts we're actually going to talk about the essentials of these civs and also what holds them back from being tier number 1. So those things kept in mind. We're going to proceed with that one, and also if you want to know about the procedure of everything concerning this project, just check out the previous video. Other than that, just a quick reminder for you guys, I am going to have my tournament at the end of this month, March 30 and March 31, and it is going to be obviously 2 days tournament. Already a couple of 6 signups. In the meantime, I'm going to provide you with a couple of show matches as well. More announcements about that on Monday. So without further ado, let's start it. The first tier 2 civilization are the Turks, who are known for their aggressive gameplay and castle age on 1v1 arena, as they get their castle up as fast as possible to attack the opponent with powerful janissaries, whose strength becomes more amplified on a closed map like arena. Having a look at the economy bonuses, it becomes obvious that there is only one, which makes the gold miners work 20% faster, which is certainly not the best economy bonus, but it is decent enough to help the Turks to execute their strategies, for which they mostly require quite some gold. The next bonus affects the military, since gunpowder units being created 25% faster and researching gunpowder technologies costing 50% less underlines how important and good the civilization gunpowder units are. Though more importantly, the free chemistry upgrade is seen as an extremely strong bonus, not only because of the resources being saved, but most importantly because of the time being saved, which creates a huge momentum for the Turks in the first minutes of Imperial Age, as it unlocks their bombard cannons right away, giving them the edge when they push the enemy. Furthermore, the free light cav upgrade is great to establish and maintain map control, and also the free hussars upgrade gives access to an effective unit to snipe siege in many situations or to function as a meat shield in front of the Turks' fully upgradable heavy cav archers. Onto the Turks' monastery. The castle age monks are useful in theory, with redemption and atonement being available, but as much is rarely seen as a strategy for this civilization, since their janissaries are more powerful in comparison, but as a defensive measure they are suitable, as a 20% faster working gold minus bonus is very helpful in such a situation. As already mentioned, the unique unit in this case is the janissary, that is probably one of the best unique units during castle age on arena due to their range and damage output. For instance, if there is a sufficient number of them, they can take on the fight against mangonels, scorpions, various infantry units and even knights. Using this unit for a push forces the opponent to go for a defensive castle in many situations, which in result gives the Turks a huge chance to gain map control, since the enemy space becomes highly limited. The first unique technology to look at is Sipahi. It gives their cav archers plus 20 HP and therefore makes them with 100 HP in total the tankiest of its kind in the game. As they become more durable, their use increases, though despite being cheap and available in Castle Age, one normally sees this tech being used in Imperial Age, once again because of the usefulness of the janissaries in Castle Age. Artillery is the second unique technology of the Turks, which increases the range of their bombard towers and bombard cannons, but due to the high coast it is not used too often unless there's a Teutons opponent with crenellations castles. For this civilization, Melkor is the expert to talk about the Imperial Age options as well as the weak spots that can be used in order to deal with the Turks properly.
Well, the main problem is when the enemy does siege ram against them, because they don't have halberdiers. So I guess the real thing to ask is, how do they deal with siege rams and halberdiers? What's the best way to do that? They have no onagers, they can't use that to kill it, and they have no halberdier to just trash in the way and get the rams to die. So the first thing is cannons. That only really works early in, because they're just too expensive to always have around the place if the enemy manages to snipe them a few times. I would say that champions or hussars are the main ways to get rid of these rams. Now, hussars work in some cases, but what if your enemy is doing 50 halberdiers and rams and just stacking all over the place? Hussars suddenly don't work anymore. So I would say the champions are very important for Turks in these cases, because they just have no other way to kill the rams. So champions by themselves are no good, because the enemy can also have archers to kill them easily, and then it's just very cost inefficient. I would say that Turks kind of needs to have some ranged units that just always is alive and retreating and never being lost, and also something to kill rams with. So normally in post-imp I would have some champions, some hussars to run around, maybe get some ram snipes, and some janissary or CA. You need to have one of them, janissary or CA. And hussars are great because you can use them to get an occasional ram snipe for no gold cost, but you also need the champions for the main battlefront when the enemy puts everything into it to actually hold the line. So the weakness of Turks is archers and rams. So one of the ways that most people take out Turks early Imp is by just massing a bunch of siege rams, releasing them, and all the janissaries and all the cannons just can't deal with it because there's just too much of them. Now sometimes they can, but it's what people would normally do because there's not much ways to fight janissary cost effectively early on, except for archers. But then that's what the Turks make their Magnos for. It gets really problematic when the Arbalist is teched into, and suddenly the Magnos can't counter the archers anymore, and that's when Turks will suffer the most. So how do they kill the archers? Well, they can make cannons, but that doesn't always work depending on the archer and depending on your micro, I guess. But most people can't micro cannons well enough to deal with a lot of Arbalists when they're on the defensive. The other thing is Hussars, but that's not a perfect solution because the enemy can usually easily make halberdier counter to the Hussars. Turks, if they can figure out a way to shut down the Arbalists and hold them in place, and if they can also figure out a way to shut down the rams, then they're very hard to stop. But it's difficult to do that because early on you need great micro to be able to stop that ram and Arbalist push.
Spanish are the next civilization on the list, and similar to the Turks, they're also known for their aggressive strategies such as castle drops to make use of their mobile and powerful conquistadors. Still, their economy bonus is not what makes them so distinctively strong. As builder working 30% faster is a great bonus by itself, but in this case also the only economy bonus that they have, as with this one they have a slight advantage when booming because the town centers are built faster. Thus, the boom itself can begin earlier than for other generic civilizations with the same amount of villagers in Dark and Feudal Age, as their town centers in Castle Age would not be up as fast. While blacksmith upgrades not costing gold saves a lot of resources, it is even more important to mention that bombard cannons and hand cannoneers firing 18% faster is a really noticeable bonus and makes the Spanish hand cannoneer one of the strongest in the game. With a look at the monastery tags, it needs to be pointed out that Spanish are the only civilization with the fully available tech tree, as they even have the missionary, which is going to be talked about very soon. It is quite trivial though that Spanish are great in order to execute a smush, especially if there is an enemy civilization that needs to be tagged early on, such as the Goths, which could fall for a mind game as they would expect conquistadors but then encounter monks. The downside for their smush is the timing, as they have no bonus that could make them go for the next age faster in any kind of way. Looking at the castle of the Spanish, their main unit is the Conquistador, which is arguably one of the strongest unique units because of their raiding potential, speed, range and armor that makes them strong against a huge variety of units including mangonels. Similar to Janissaries, they can force the opponents to be stuck in their base, and with their mobility they can maintain map control even better. Nevertheless, they are used in Castle Age as a main unit mostly, as in Imperial Age their relevance starts to decrease due to the given stronger alternatives of the Spanish. The second unique unit is the Missionary, which is a more mobile version of the Monk that cannot pick up relics and has less range. They are rarely seen in the game, but in theory they are good to convert mobile units as they can move faster, and in addition to Sanctity they also profit from bloodlines. Inquisition is the first unique tag and it boosts the Spanish monks to convert faster, which is an excellent technology to win monk wars, because the opponent with atonement monks will struggle a lot to convert Inquisition monks, resulting in a loss of the monk war and giving the Spanish an opportunity to follow up with conquistadors to basically seal the deal, for instance. A unique technology that is often seen as the key element of a certain troll strategy for the entertaining players of this game is Supremacy, and it boosts the strength and durability of the Spanish villagers so much that it actually is a serious option to be used in the later part of the game to keep the economy stable in case the opponent tries to harass the villagers to disrupt the resource income. To gain more insight into the imp options and weaknesses of the Spanish, I have received an elaborate text of Stefan, who is known for his versatility that makes him find and execute the correct strategy in countless situations on Arena 1v1s. Spanish don't really have any weaknesses on Arena. They can play fast Imperial with Kongs plus Monks, a Kong all-in Castle Age, use Kongs for map control while booming or just boom because they have plenty of options for the late game as well. They have an excellent and versatile late game because they got one of the best and complete tech trees in the game. Spanish got plenty of options for the Castle Age as well. To build a castle as soon as you hit Castle Age is almost always a good idea, since Conquistadors are perfect to secure map control, perform a powerful rush or using them for defensive purposes, For example, Kongs with Heresy can counter Monk aggression and Monk fast Imp strategies. It's also great to mind game your opponent because he doesn't know how aggressive you will use your Kongs and Monks, or also if you will play more eco-focused. I personally prefer to play a bit safer and make use of the easy transition and early Imp to go Kongs plus Monks plus Siege, which can be used for a very fast and strong push and is hard to stop for most civs. Most of the time Spanish are also fine with taking a slower approach, especially with a good map, and take their time to get an elite conquistador plus help or paladin plus skirmisher with siege ram combination, for example. They are perfect for trash wars because they have fully upgraded helps, skirmishers, hussars, and even have the options to fight with villagers and the possibility to go for champs. That means that Spanish got the ability to adapt and can create a perfect army composition for most situations. The only missing important techs are Siege Archer and Siege Engineers. That and the fact that they don't have any eco bonus besides the faster building speed hinders them to be top 3 on Arena. To sum it up, Spanish can do great versus any civ on Arena, and they are perfect for any playstyle since they have the option to play very aggressively, but at the same time they do very well in booming and late game matches. Now it is time for the Burmese, who are well known for their powerful Arambai that used to take down many units and buildings, but after the latest balance update last year, they received a nerf that certainly weakened the unique units. But nevertheless, the experts of this project estimate this civilization as strong enough for tier 2, which will become more evident with a closer look at the bonuses. Starting with the economy bonus that gives the Burmese all lumber camp upgrades for free, it is obvious that this is a pleasant boost, but not too much of a radical one for their economy. Though it sure is nice to get these technologies right away without paying the resources, giving the civilization a nice boost in the beginning in order to spark a great boom. Furthermore, also getting the last lumber camp upgrade for free once hitting Imperial Age is a nice extra, as the technology is often delayed since its effect is not as impactful as Double Bit Axe and Bowsaw, but can still give an additional boost in the background. The next bonus is the infantry getting 1 additional attack per age, which is a significant increase of strength on both Arabia and Arena, though on Arena, on which man-at-arms rushes normally do not take place, it becomes more relevant during the later part of the game when champions and halberdiers can be used. As before, the Burmese rather utilize other units to operate in the game. Looking at the Burmese monastery, one has to keep in mind that this civilization also has the bonus that gives them the information about the relic locations on the map, which can be quite handy on Arena and plays along well with the boosted monastery tech tree itself, because for this civ, all technologies cost 50% less. As mentioned in the previous video, there is only one Rise of Raja civilization that has access to heresy, but Burmese are not the one, which is the reason why they ultimately do not save as many resources as one could think, but being able to save 50% of the gold from redemption, atonement and potentially faith is quite some amount to invest into additional monks or siege. On to their unique units, the infamous Arambai is not as powerful on Arena as on Arabia because they cannot use their mobility and raiding potential as much. Moreover, the cost of this unit has been increased in the last major update last year, which has turned going for mass Arambai right away into more of an all-in strategy because of the heavy investment and its impact on the economy. Going for siege next to Arambai would be very useful if the opponent goes for crossbows or even arbalists as a counter, but it is not entirely realistic anymore due to the significant rise of the cost for this unique unit. The first unique technology is Howdah, which is a cheap one but limited concerning its usage as heresy is missing, but there is a probable scenario in which the Burmese player has crippled the opponent's economy that much to justify a strong push with battle elephants that receive additional armor with this tech. Also, Manipur Cavalry is the second unique technology and is rarely used in 1v1s unless one has a huge economy lead, as it is not worth the resources, but it can be utilized in team games more likely. That being said, it seems that this civilization has striking flaws which could make one wonder how it reached such a high spot on the overall tier list. So I asked Dracont, who helped me out with the systematical approach of my project and is one of the most experienced players, to give me more information about this civilization, and he responded with this text. Burmese are a very tricky civilization to play and to play against. During Masters of Arena 5, they were seen as a top 3 civilization, which has now changed due to certain nerfs. Their elephants, hussars, cavaliers and arambais can be all cornered by halves. Arambais, monks and champions are countered by arbalists or other good ranged units. Onagers don't have heresy, although 50% cheaper faith suddenly makes sense to be researched. They can be converted by monks or outranged by longbows, outmicroed by Mangudais. An army of arbalists plus help plus monk with redemption and block printing is pretty cheap and available to some civs. So how to play Burmese if one faces a civ that can counter them in Imperial Age? Generally, kill before that counter can be made. Arambais alone are bad versus monks, but if one has light cavalry with them, it's suddenly a very strong Castle Age army. Due to free lumber camp upgrades, relic vision and monk technologies discounts, Burmese are among the best civs for a monk rush or monks plus forward castle plus fast imperial push. To receive some more knowledge concerning the later part of the game with the Burmese and their weaknesses, I have talked to Vinchester, who is known for his adaptive and creative gameplay, which makes him not only strong on arena, but also on open and random maps.
I love Burmese because this is a strong eco-civilization and you can try to push at the same time as you're booming. With all those cheap upgrades for monks, you can try to go for some monasteries like 2 or maybe even 3 and try to boom out with 3 or even 14th centuries into strong imperial units. The idea of Burmese, I think, that you can try to push a lot and don't waste a lot of resources, same as those Armbais from Castle as unique unit, because if compared to Spanish you don't need to spend food for this and you can boom for free with a lot of town centers. This food is a really expensive resource for early stages. So in Imperial Age I really like this +7 attack halberdiers. I'm not sure about the champions because I don't really use this unit a lot. Maybe it's really great in Warlock Kingdoms, but in past I never used champions except the Goth War or maybe Celt War. Those champions are kinda useful, but about those +7 halberdiers is make us very strong when we have gold out in 1v1. Because you know, these trash fights with all these upgrades and this +7 attack, they're very strong versus Hussars, versus other halberdiers or pikemen, and the skirms are not that strong versus them. So the weakness maybe is they don't have armor upgrade for archers. Of course you use skirms more than archers. In trash fights, if you'll make huge amount of halberdiers with a lot of upgraded hussars plus this +7 halberdiers, if you have more of these units you'll win most of the trash fights. Those elephants are kinda useful because you know all those gold units not option in case if you don't have a lot of relics or you took the fights in Castle Age with spending gold more and more. Without gold, Burmese are not that strong versus thieves which have something like Mangudais, strong arbalists, or maybe some strong gold army, so they can be good versus another trash units, but versus gold army they're not good without gold, and even with gold because those elephants are not that strong. It's kinda not good that they don't have heresy, because as with this thief you want to go for elephants in late Imperial Age, and a really nice counter strategy for this from opponent is going for monk and boom at the same time, because if he has like 10 monks from Castle Age you cannot go for elephants a lot because they'll be converted. So, and you don't have heresy, your opponent is free to go for a crazy monk rush or something like this and you cannot just boom.
The fourth civilization that has made it into tier 2 are the Malians, who have the reputation of being very versatile and economically strong, which makes their Castle Age play on Arabia for instance very strong and dominant. As this project is about 1v1 arena, it is interesting to investigate how impactful the strong bonuses and the open tech tree can be on such a closed map. Concerning their economy bonus, it is probably not too surprising to see that buildings costing 15% less wood except for farms is a really good economy bonus on this map too, since it applies on every strategy that one can go for with the Malians, and therefore a lot of resources are saved that can be invested into additional farms or other buildings which can allow strategy switches early on. With this bonus, they can even boom while being aggressive on the map, which resembles their playstyle on Arabia 1v1s a lot too. Another bonus that has some relevance is the university researches being 80% faster, which can build up a momentum for the Malians, slightly similar to the Turks' chemistry bonus, but most importantly, getting the gold mining upgrades for free is a great boost for an aggressive strategy with a single town center, as it is possible to go for a faster Imperial Age push with monks, trebuchets and pikemen that also receive additional pierce armor per age, which is extremely hard to counter if the opponent is caught off guard. Speaking of monks, their tech tree is nearly complete, though illumination is missing, which is rather unfortunate, but still it is possible to go for a strong smush that becomes even stronger due to the free gold mining upgrades. The Gebeto is the unique unit of the Malians, and they are nice for raiding if there's a hole allowing to enter the opponent's economy, but it is not as useful as on open maps because there are not too many potential holes to go through for a longer period of time in the game, and furthermore they can be dealt with by a variety of units, even though Gebetos do well against a few of their counter units if they are slightly messed up. So all in all, they are mostly used as a unit that supports a pushback resulting from a successfully defended enemy push. The first unique technology, Tigui, makes town centers shoot 5 extra arrows even if there are no villagers garrisoned, which is an often unused but still cheap technology that costs no gold and can be helpful for town centers that are put next to extra resources on the map, since the opponent will then struggle to prevent the Malians' map control. Nonetheless, players tend to place castles instead of, or in addition to, town centers next to extra resources, since trebuchets will be of use in the late game anyway. Farimba is the well-known second unique technology of the Malians and gives their cavalry 5 additional attack, even though it can be translated into 3 additional attack since they do not get blast furnace in the blacksmith. This tech is not too expensive and a great buff for the Malians' cavalry, as they become really strong at sniping siege units and villagers. It is a must-have if one goes for any kind of cavalry in the late game, which will most likely be the case for Malians. As they have a great economy and tech tree, they have a lot of potential that can be used by creative and competent players who are good in both micro and macro. One of the most promising players on Arena is Feanor, who is extremely reflective when it comes to analyzing the matches he plays, and he is the expert to talk about the Malians.
Obviously, the composition you make completely depends on what civ you're playing, whether they're cavalry-orientated, infantry, siege. Malian have such a wide, diverse tech tree. You've got so many options to choose from. One of the typical things that you'll see in almost any circumstance is the use of their cannons. Most civs that with cannons, we utilize them because they're such a powerful unit, especially in Imperial Age. You'll also want to research Siege Onager because likewise that's such a powerful unit if you can get it fully upgraded. Fortunately for Malians, they are missing some useful upgrades. They are missing the Blast Furnace and Bracer, which affects both the infantry and the archers, so less attack for both of them and less range for the archers. Ideally, they should not have to use Arbalists at all. You wouldn't really want Arbalists. Skirmishers, they still have the armor, so they're still fine. But you'd expect a lot of sort of light cavalry because of the bonus from Farimba. It does make them a lot stronger than other light cavalry. So light cavalry would definitely be seen, and then a combination of both sort of champions and pikemen you would typically see as well. The pikemen trash wars once it just goes to halberdier. So once it goes to full trash war with, let's say, halberdier skirmisher, and suddenly that's where the champions sort of shine through, because the skirmishers essentially do no damage to them, beat like cavalry by a good bit, and then they also beat the pikemen or halberdier really nicely. So champions in late imp is definitely a good option for them, along with if they can get Siege Onager, getting 1 or 2 at all times, and then the typical pike with the extra pierce armor and skirmishers because the lack of bracer, but depending on what you're facing, they're kind of always useful just for killing, let's say, halberdier. There are a few things that Malians don't have and where there's an obvious gap in their civilization. The first one that I take note of essentially every civilization that either I'm playing with or I'm playing against is Siege Engineers. Give Siege +1 range. If you're a civilization that does have it, it's easy to take advantage over civ that doesn't have it. The other one is, while they have amazing camos and they've got good pikemen against archers, if you are civ with, let's say, paladins and halberdier, the combination is really strong when fighting Malians because paladins are much better against pikemen than the Malian camos are against your halberdiers. So if you're fighting with, let's say, a horde of paladins and a horde of halberdiers, it makes it very tough for the Malians to actually properly engage that, because the pikemen do fine against, let's say, the paladins, but they don't as amazing. If you try to fight with the camels, halberdiers do much better against that. And it does take a bit of everything from the Malians to properly be able to counter that.
The last tier 2 civilization are the Franks, and in the hands of someone who knows how to start the game on 1v1 arena matchups with scouts, taking over the map control can be a great basis to play with this civilization. To supply their strategies, the Franks have a bonus that makes the villagers get food from berries 25% faster, which means that they can get up to the next stage quick in order to start the boom and chaos stage earlier than other generic civilizations without such a bonus. In addition, getting the farm upgrades for free is similar to the Burmese lumber camp bonus, but in this case it affects the food income positively and saves resources that can be invested into more farms. Therefore, in most of the cases, a Franks player should go for 2 farms in Dark Age at most and then continue making more in Feudal Age to profit from this bonus as much as possible. Another bonus is the additional 20% HP on cavalry that gives the Frank scouts a big chance to take over the map control due to having no reason to be worried while scouting and spotting the opponent going for a lane, as scout fights normally end up in their favor. Right after scouts, it is possible to go for light cavs or knights, which obviously also profit from this bonus. To maintain the map control or to go for a defensive move against smushes as well as other types of generic enemy aggression, the Franks 25% cheaper castle is a nice aspect to either build up and keep up the pressure or to protect the own economy. In case cavalry is the chosen strategy in the later part of the game, having access to heresy is a good way to protect the units, as they cannot get converted anymore but simply get killed after a successful enemy conversion. Besides that, the Monk tech tree is not suitable for a smush since redemption as well as atonement are missing, but the monks can be used in order to fight off enemy camels, knights and elephants. The Franks unique unit is the Axeman, which is a cheap unit that has become a more popular option even for players like the Viper, MBL or Stark, who are known for their mind games on Arabia, as it is a perfect unit to deal with infantry if one can push the opponent into producing pikemen or halberdiers by producing a sufficient amount of cavalry. Even though they die to hand cannoneers fast, the main reason why they are still a good unit on Arena is Champ and Siege or Halberdier and Siege being a popular unit composition and thus could be used by the opponent. The first unique technology is Chivalry, and it makes the stables work 40% faster, which sounds great but is really expensive. For this reason, players tend to go for more additional stables to achieve a similar effect, which is why it is not normally seen being used unless someone wants to go for all in with the Knight line. For that, the economy needs to be perfectly managed, but camels and halberdiers countering the Knight line becomes problematic, as building a castle and producing axemen will be tough to accomplish with an ongoing chivalry stable production, despite the castle and the axemen being rather cheap. Bearded Axe as the second unique technology increases the axeman's range and is obviously helpful in a scenario in which this unit is really needed. The imperial options and weaknesses of the Franks will be highlighted by MrGPN.
Franks have a lot of options towards the late game. Their good economy and ability to secure map control with good early scout line and knights lets them pull off versatile late game units. They can go cavalier, sometimes paladin if they could afford it, and protect that cavalry by having a variety of options to kill anti-cavalry units. They have hand cannoneers, champions and throwing axemen to kill halberdiers, and they have halves of their own to kill camels, which might counter their cavalry. Bomber cannons are the staple siege of a Frank late game, as well as easier to mass trebuchets due to their cheaper castles. The cheaper castles are also very useful for defending in the early game, so it's likely that a Frank player might reach the late game where they have the good powerhouse options. Franks have the opportunity to die early game if they don't invest in scouts and other map control openings, if they are pushed by units, in particular monks. Preventing them from booming is a good way for a lot of civs to beat them. On the flip side, if a Frank player does invest in getting map control, it's very easy for them to die to a civ that can do very fast booms into halberdier plus siege ram. These civs can include Ethiopians, Huns, Celts, Slavs and more. Their lack of siege ram or siege onger can prevent them from stopping units like Arbalast as easily, which kill the counters a Frank player might make to combat halberdiers.